Yeah.
We're
Just
live.
muted or did something
Probably-
too. I didn't mean
probably.
to. Was it me?
You've deafened yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, he thought he done it to someone else.
I've done that to myself before. Putting the pocket.
I didn't know who. I pressed something and click. I was
Rocky,
trying to
Rocky.
get something on my phone.
Rakia, can we get a live stream from your pocket, please? Thank
we
you.
are live now, so you want to share it
Okay.
around? I'll pop it in
They
here.
hear my singing.
We'll wait for a few more people.
I
to
could go
join.
order some nuggets and make people's day.
There's not enough people in here now. Nobody's watching.
Good. No, we were live.
Rakia wants to be like Jesus. He wants to come with a 9-pack of nuggets and feed 20 people and still have leftovers.
That's right.
Right, well, there's loads of people who are on at the minute now, so no, nobody's going to be watching.
I didn't get a notification or anything.
I've just gone live. It's all right.
Do you think it was a logical time to choose this particular hour?
Well, I don't know. It's just we've got to have a go at it anyway. The logic, right?
Yeah.
We know
It's
there's
always
going to
good
be
to use
less and
logic.
less people watching anyway. Especially with the logic as well. They'll be looking at it and going, I don't do that.
Yeah. What's the point?
I'm not doing logic. Too hard. Yeah.
Gotta send out a message to Leaky that we're going live. He'll come over.
He will. Where can I hit him up?
Do you think so? I don't think so.
That's what he wanted, right? Live.
I just got the notification that he's live now.
Same here.
I'll put it in the chat if anybody wants to.
El
Oh, no,
Yeah, you're
Fargo.
quite,
Boom.
you're quite a long way from us, aren't you? So
I have no clue where the notification would be, so
Right. I'll try and find some stuff from this morning. Because my PC keeps stopping. The cursor just stops for a bit and I have to wait for a few seconds. Gets a bit boring waiting for it. There you go. Back again. Right, so this morning I was over at, like as I do, get up in the morning and check round a few places, and there was a thing obviously because Ranty had not replied to Ruhif, and Ruhif had put about Ranty going up to Winter Hill, and like, is it okay that, or would I rather do it, or do we trust Ranty to do it? Go up to Winter Hill with an auto level. And I said, well, Ruhif's already paid Ranty for it, Ruhif. Replying to Ruhif. I said, you've already paid Ranty, and I'd quite like for Ranty to enjoy the experience of learning what it's like to actually have an auto level. So it would be much better for Ranty to do it. He'd get a bit of content out of it as well, right? So, and then it came to the I can't remember what I was thinking about, but I was thinking about the argument that we have about the basic simple argument and the way we formulated it in logic. So we've got this got the logic argument to keep us going, because I mean, I don't know how soon it was that we formulated, well, we struck upon the logic to be the thing that we found so simple, right? It found us, I think, through the...
Good afternoon.
All right, Rob. Through the geometry when we were looking for it. And in that, there's a few interesting stories of the logic. So I was trying to find a way to prove things to ourselves, right? I'm trying to hand that off to other people, because it seems like most people don't seem to think that their proofs are actually out there and to be able to be gained by any of us. It's a little bit of a strange situation. The fact of gaining proofs that what we can use of ourselves to build upon, right? So the idea of an argument, and like a valid argument, is an argument such that necessarily, if the premises are true, then the conclusion is true. Well, what's an argument? I mean, it's not shouting at each other, because, I mean, how do you have premises and conclusions within a shouty match? So it's one of those things where the words that we have been changed, right? Because an argument is a set of statements and premises that you can discuss to be validly true or not, and then they go together to form a statement which is either true or false. And if you put these premises together in a way that they all link together and they are true, then necessarily the conclusion of the logical argument is also true. It's like a mathematical statement, but within words, and like statements, not mathematical, but logical statements. And that's the sort of formulation of what we call proofs. So in order to form a logical statement, it's a little bit more tricky than you imagine, but it's very simple once it's done. And they seem to get confused by it, which I don't know. Can we go into this, science it out? Is that maybe a little bit too advanced? But I mean, this is how people
Convolute.
I guess so, right? So a logical statement should be quite simple. I mean, there are many statements that can be made, and then logical arguments that come from that. I.e., I've got one up on the board here. Not up on the screen at the minute, but up on a board, right? So it says, as a base statement, you make an initial statement like horizontal and vertical are right lines. Right meaning straight lines. So that's a statement that can either be true or false, but, you know, the outcome of it. But we're after a proof for such a statement. It may sound simple and may sound, well, it is, but we're after a proof within it. So the argument would be formed if vertical is a right line of unlimited length, brackets P, then all perpendiculars to it will be horizontal, Q. So it gives us a logical statement for us to check that are all horizontals perpendicular to the vertical. I mean, because it's a proof, it's something that you have to go and take away for yourself. But the initial statement is read and left out there for the person to pick up and decide for themselves, right? The statement's there. Now, is it a proof? Well, it's a proof for the person that gets it, right? It's not an initial proof. You can't just state something and say, there you go, that's a proof. It needs to be checked and either verified or falsified, right? So in saying that, this is how it can go wrong on the screen now, right? So Science It Out was replying to another logical statement that we will get back to in a minute. And he says this. He says, basically, using this logic, which is the one we'll get back to in a minute, but I mean, there isn't different forms of logic. There's just logic. Different ways of applying it, maybe. But the simple logic that we're dealing with at the minute is just very simple. So he says, using this logic, I can prove that the sum of squares of two sides of a right-angled triangle is always 9 times 10 to the power of 16 meters per second. Meters squared per second squared. From the Pythagorean theorem, we know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and c equals 3 times 10 to the 8 minus. Therefore, a squared plus b squared equals, and then all of the numbers that he's just come up with. And then he says at the bottom of that, he says, is any premise false in the proof above? Is the reasoning sound? Well, I don't know. His first one says, I can prove that the sum of squares of two sides of a right-angled triangle is always... Well, it doesn't matter, whatever number he puts there. That's obviously false, because right-angled triangles can be all different sizes, so you can't have the hypotenuse always being the same length, even though it is meters per second squared, and it's a length. So when he says, is any premise false in the proof above, like, the answer's yes. It's messed up. He hasn't got a clue what he's talking about. He doesn't understand logic in the slightest. He doesn't even understand triangles or the Pythagorean theorem. But that's
or you're just taking the piss out of you.
Well, no,
Yeah.
this is Science Is Out, right? These people are like, they're
That's a
not
troll
taking.
account.
He's not taking the piss out of me, because I know it's a load of bullshit. That's why I'm here saying it.
Yeah, that's right.
Anybody
I
else
understand.
reading that would think, well, what would they think? Do they think I don't know what logic is, or would they think he does know what logic
They
is?
think he's smart with calculations and shit.
Yeah. But when the basic logic he's using is so flawed, then they just see the numbers, don't they? They see the numbers and think he's very good at calculations, and obviously the old adage, certain people can't do maths or anything. Now, when that stands. So, but I mean, like, when you hear the logic that this, where he says, basically using this logic, well, my logic was based on this, and a valid argument is an argument such that necessarily, if the premises are true, then the conclusion is true. Right now, to make it as simple as possible with the logic and the logical principles that we go to, we first have to understand logic. And logic is may sound scary to people, but it's just there, right? It's a simple statement that makes sense instantly the moment you hear it. It's like, yeah, that's makes sense. Sort of based upon the first principles, that as simple as you can make it, the logic should be based on whatever is the most simple. But in order to start the logic, it's using words. There's no numbers. So we have to be able to use words that we have a very definite understanding of. which are normally based around the axioms of whatever topic that you want to apply the logical statement to, right? So all of the axioms and the definitions and everything should already be set before you start doing the logic. Now, the easiest logic to do and the easiest logic to explain to people is the logic of geometry, because that is the most perfect logical system that's ever been made. From definition, through all of the propositions and the postulates and the axioms and the postulates, in order to formulate a proof which adds to the proof before it. It's just a series of proofs that stack on top of each other to give you a firm understanding.
Idiots would say definitions are meaningless.
Definitions are definitely ultra important.
I think you missed the beginning. Only an idiot or somebody that's slow would say that definitions are meaningless.
Or a sophist that wants to just basically change the rules whenever he wants to, because the definitions are the rules we apply by, right? And the axioms and everything.
Shout out to Space Pope.
Or if your last name's Russell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is the idea of the logician, or the logic. If when you're going into an argument or whatever, is just to lay out a proposition, a statement that can be discussed. Now, people with after the logic can apply to all of these and stick to the rules, because then the outcome will be the truth. Well, anybody that doesn't want to stick to those rules obviously wants to break the rules and wants an outcome that is not the truth. You can't bend the truth with different words and different meanings. It's not how you should do this sort of thing. You should go with the basics. So in order to start any sort of a discussion or whatever, you have to start with some basic understanding of how this logic will be implemented. But logic doesn't really need rules. The logic implies the rules in itself. I don't really know how to explain it much better than that. So, in order to lay out an initial statement, that statement has to either be true or false. So it either has a yes or a no answer to it. And that's sort of, you could say, thumbs up or thumbs down, right? 0 or 1, right? You can't have both. It could never have a year, maybe, right? Because then it wouldn't be a statement that you could do anything within logic. You're after a definite whenever you're doing it. So all of your statements that have to be laid out in order to form a logical argument have to be in this sort of yes, no answer sort of, it is or it isn't. And that's where the law of non-contradiction comes in. You can't have something being that something and also something else that it isn't. It's just like it makes that definite, the yes or no statement of anything. So, in order to do this sort of thing, we found it really hard to be able to formulate logic. It doesn't come naturally. It takes quite a lot of work, and that's why I think the argument of it works well, because you can work through this as a lot of people together to help each other work through the argument. Now, in order for us to have a simple start, I'll give you the process that we had once. We were having a discussion, and DP it was. Shout out DP. I don't know where he is. I hope he's back soon. So DP says, within the middle of a discussion, he just says, how many straight lines does it take in order to make a circle? Now, he said that in the middle of a conversation as we were talking about the horizon. But we were talking about the horizon as being a straight line, as it is defined, a horizontal straight line, horizon. No curves. And he jokingly said that. How many straight lines does it take in order to follow, in order to make a circle? The answer is, you decide. But from that initial statement, we were able to formulate a logical statement because we've just been going through logic and we've just been going through Euclid. And we're going through Euclid, and there's some statements and propositions within Euclid that sort of help us. We can go back and use these because these propositions are proofs within the argument, or they're within what we've been learning about. And I don't know whether I should probably have got them together. I'll forget that. I put that one out. PC's acting a little bit slow. A lot slow. Am I still here? Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So the logical statement based around the horizon came to be that it's a straight line, horizontal. The horizon is a straight line, and that straight line is horizontal. So the word horizontal is horizon with tal plugged on at the end of it. Well, the tal, I don't know, is it suffix or... Yeah, it's suffix afterwards?
Yeah, suffix.
Yeah, so the tal suffix on the end of the horizon it means the totality of horizon, which means that all of those straight lines with the totality of them. That's what horizontal is. So all the horizontals go to make the horizon, right? There's a very close relationship there between horizontal and horizon. And since we've been dealing with the building trade and all of that, we know that vertical and horizontal are the two frames of reference and the two axes that we use within the building trade or whatever. Now, the horizon being horizontal works the opposite way round, right? So if you work out the horizontal, we get a definition within mathematics for horizontal. It will say parallel to the plane of the horizon. So if horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon, that would make sense. That would explain as to why it was a straight line, and DP said, how many straight lines does it take to form a circle? Because people were saying that the horizon is a circle. Well, straight from the top of the head, it's a straight line. There's no circle there. There's no curvature to it. So how do you get a straight line to form a circle? I'd say you can't. But then the logic is still formulating. So we there's a few facts.
Wait.
Whoa.
Wait. Sorry, I got shit, Mike. They can make a circle a straight line if they switch it to spherical geometry.
What do you mean?
You
can't just say that, Rob. You can't just
spherical
come in there like
geometry.
that. What do you mean? What do you mean? You
Well,
switch
they
a
would-
straight line.
Well, not they. Well, a chord they call a straight line.
A chord is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They call a chord a straight line. Anybody that's defending the globe will call a chord a straight line.
Yeah.
It's not a straight line.
Well, a chord is a straight line. Yeah. It's not spherical geometry though. That's Euclidean geometry. So. Yeah.
Well, maybe I'm confused.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about geometry. We're talking about the geometry that everybody knows. Straight lines. Straight lines are straight lines. So this is where we go back to the first principles. First off, we have to understand if we're going to use horizontal and horizon in our logical statement, then we need to know the definitions of these words, right? So the horizon is just the apparent meeting of the land and sky or the ground or whatever. And a horizontal is perpendicular to vertical. It's a straight line, horizontal. And if you look up the mathematical definition of horizontal, in fact, I'll do that in the horizontal maths. What? It's kiddie stuff, right? Maths. What is horizontal? What you see is described as horizontal. The line at which the Earth's surface and the sky appear to meet is called the horizon. Anything parallel to the horizon is called horizontal. Now, I mean, it's only kids' maths, right? But it's pretty simple principles, right? You can't really go against this. I mean, when they say it is simple, I mean, it really is. Vertical and horizontal, they're perpendicular, and horizontal's a straight line, and it's the line at which the Earth's surface and the sky appear to meet is called the horizon. Anything parallel to the horizon is called horizontal. Let's see if we can find some others. Horizontal math word definition. Horizontal line is one which runs left to right across the page. In geometry, a horizontal line is one which runs left to right across the page. It comes from the word horizon in the sense that horizontal lines are parallel to the horizon. Mathematics, this. Its cousin is the vertical line, which runs up and down the page. A vertical line is perpendicular to the horizontal line. Let's see if we can find some more. Oh, once my cursor comes back again. So, I mean, this isn't difficult. We're talking about straight lines and a horizontal. And most people know what that is. And most people know that the horizon is also a straight line. There's no curvature to a horizontal. What does horizontal mean in maths? Anything parallel to the...
Unless you're defending a model.
Unless, well, anything parallel to the horizon is called horizontal. As vertical is the opposite of horizontal, anything that makes a 90-degree angle, right angle, with the horizontal or the horizon is called vertical. So the horizontal line is one which runs across from left to right. Use of horizontal and vertical in mathematics. Okay, so that's horizontal, right? Now, oh, where's my cursor gone again? It keeps stopping. I'll be back in a minute with my cursor. So, straight lines, horizontal. I mean, that's nobody's going to disagree. Well, I'd say nobody's going to disagree with that. I bet there are. Well, we know there are definitely people that.
Yeah, the model defenders.
Who? Like, don't speak for other people, Rob. If they
said
want
model.
to come in, no, I don't want. I don't want you speaking for they or the model
Who are
defenders.
they? No, I'm just saying model defenders.
Yeah.
People that defend a certain type of model will disagree. They have to.
Right. So I'll get off that for a bit. Hopefully my cursor won't go off. So once we've established the horizontal is a straight line, we can then say we can work with what we know about it. The horizontal is parallel to the plane of the horizon. Now, the question was, because we'd just done Euclid and all of that, and the proofs within Euclid are pretty self-evident proofs when you find them. And we'd just gone through, so let me see if I can find the oh, here you go, this one. This was the first one. Now, this is Euclid's Elements, Proposition 30. Should we go do the definitions of logic? Does it need to do the definition of logic first before we go into the logical propositions? I think we should, really.
Yeah,
Most
definitions are
probably.
important.
So, in order to understand what logic is, and it's built up from basically the first principles, you want to make it as simple as you can to start off with and build up from there. Now, geometry being the most perfect of these the ideas of logic, we have definitions. Did I get the definitions? Oh, I should have. There you go. Here's the first 5 definitions of logic, just to show you. Now, since we go down to nothing, we start from, literally, we have to start from nothing within logic. Because first principles, I mean, how can you get more base than starting with absolutely nothing? So, do we start with the definitions? Book 1. First definition is a point is that which has no parts or which has no magnitude. So we're defining something that's nothing. We're going to say a point is nothing. It's not there. It doesn't exist. But it gives us something to start with within logic. This is being the definitions. Now, you can't prove this. You can't prove something that isn't there. So you have to basically take this for granted. But it does give us a starting block. A point to start from. Right? So, at the beginning, we've got nothing. And that's where we're starting from. Now, definition 2. A line is length without breadth. Well, that makes sense. Because it's one step up from a point. But something that has no length but no breadth, i.e. one dimension, Can't be seen either. It's a nothing. It's just, it may as well be a point. But those are the two things we're going to start with now, right? With something that can't be proved, but just an idea. A one-dimensional line and a point that is nothing. So the third one, sorry. The extremities of a line are points. So imagine a line, it's got a start and a stop. We've now got 2 points describing a line. It describes that line a little bit better than what we had before. And then we've got a straight line is that which lies evenly between its extreme points. So the 2 points at either end, a straight line lies evenly between those 2 points. That makes sense. It's a one-dimensional line. It has no breadth. It's just has the length, and it is evenly distributed straight across from one to the other. The very definition of a straight line described in there. Then from that we go, a superficies is that which has only length and breadth. Well, length and breadth is 2 dimensions, and a superficies, for a better word, is called a plane, a surface,
Sorry.
Go on.
I was just going to add in surface, but you beat me to it. Sorry.
Well, I mean, you could call it a surface, but it's only 2-dimensional. I would say a surface needs a touching thing, but I mean, that's just me. We're still in the realm of not existent. You can't show me a 2-dimensional object. So could you really call it a surface? I don't know. I mean, that's one of those word games things, but we're dealing in mathematics at the minute in a 2-dimensional framework in order to get the principles of what we're dealing with. I mean, that's all we're doing at the minute. We're not going much further than just trying to define the basics that we can then work on. And the two that can't be proved are the point, the nothing, and a line is length without breadth. I mean, you can show extremities of a line are points. You can, as soon as you actually draw it or you form it, the start point and the end point, they're there to be seen. I mean, that can definitely be done. And the extremities of a superficies are lines. So they're going to say the boundary of these shapes. So you could call it a superficies, a shape, or the thing that you're going to form by this geometry with the lines. The borders of it are the ones that form the shape. I don't know, superficies, I quite like it. It keeps it separate because you are dealing in this sort of imaginary world. And a plane superficies is that in which any 2 points being taken, the straight line between them lies wholly in the superficies on the surface. It's if you are talking about a 2-dimensional superficies, a plane, then any 2 points on that plane, if they were to be joined up, would be a straight line. Because a straight line is that which lies evenly between its extreme points, and obviously the plane is... All of this stuff, you can go back and use what you already know, even within the definitions. Because all of everything that comes before it, every one of these steps are all there and they never go away. They're always the same. And until they get changed. right? But for the meaning of the beginning bit, they're just talking about two-dimensional geometry. Now, these definitions go... There's 35 definitions in the book that I've got, ending up with the definition 35. Let me see if I can find that. And definition 35... Oh, my curse is gone again. Definition 35 is for parallel straight lines. There's no definition for parallel curved lines. Well, they call them concentric circles. They don't call them parallel curved lines. Parallel. There we go. So here's the definition 35. Parallel straight lines are such as are in the same plane and which being produced ever so far both ways do not meet. So the definitions of all of the things that you're going to use within the geometry are all defined within those 35 definitions for the two-dimensional geometry. Now, just to let you know, Euclid is three-dimensional geometry, but in order for you to get to book 11, there are a lot of other procedures and proofs and all of that you have to work through. Well, you don't have to work through them, but they are there laid down as proofs, and they don't go away once you meet book 11. This is the three-dimensional geometry. Now, book 11, like the book 1, builds upon itself as like book 1 is, right? So all the definitions apply up until the point that they need to be changed, and all the definitions for two-dimensional geometry stand, but that we need to change them once we meet three-dimensional geometry, because we're adding an extra dimension. So the definition start at the beginning of each book of the Euclid, redefine things that need to be said for this start of the new book. So book 11 says solid is that which has length, breadth and thickness, 3 dimensions. We've added an extra dimension to what the superficies was earlier. That which bounds a solid is a superficies, right? So now we've just redefined the solid as having 3 dimensions, and it now states that which bounds a solid, 3 dimensions, is a superficies. Right? So you've gained the superficies is what is wrapped around the solid, which is 3-dimensional. Now, anything that is already 2-dimensional, the definitions of those always stand. So a triangle, a square, a circle, within 3-dimensional logic is still a 2-dimensional shape. But now we have an extra 3rd dimension that adds form to it, or, you know, a volume. It adds that 3rd dimension to the numbers. And a few of these simple definitions within Euclidean 3-dimensional geometry, solid geometry we call it. It says a straight line is perpendicular or at right angles to a plane when it makes right angles with every straight line meeting it in that plane. So I'll read that again. This is the 3rd definition. A straight line is perpendicular or at right angles to a plane when it makes right angles with every straight line meeting it in that plane. everywhere on a plane. It will be perpendicular to that plane. Makes sense. Very simple, but I mean, it's just a redefinition just to make sure. A plane is perpendicular to a plane when the straight lines drawn in one of the planes perpendicular to a common sector of the two planes are perpendicular to the other plane. A lot of use of the word perpendicular. Quite a lot. But those are the first two definitions. So the three-dimensional geometry starts dealing with the planes and perpendiculars to planes.
Can I just jump in again for a real quick second?
Go on.
I just want to say, I think we should do this type of talk more often, because a lot of this stuff gets overlooked when we're in conversations with the model defenders.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Thank you. I just want to thank you for doing this.
No problem.
The basics need to be gone over a lot.
Well, I
new
can
people
keep doing this.
No, I know. Just the new people that come in, they don't get this part. Like, they come in and they've already got a model in their mind, but they never went through any of this basic geometry. So I just want to say thank you.
No problem. At the bottom here, I was just noticing parallel planes are such as do not meet one another, though produced. So a plane that's parallel never meets another plane that's parallel. Quite interesting, because this book 11 solid geometry is, I would say, the geometry that we use, Euclidean geometry, when we are doing practical work like surveying. And we are using tools called levels that establish a horizontal plane of reference. A horizontal plane being the planes talked about here in this. So, I mean, there are proofs within geometry that give us a basis to enter into a logical statement making process, and this is where we get to the places that trigger people with some very simple logic, going over what I've just said there. So the statement we are going to make, or we are going to use within this logical statement, we have this, our straight line logic. Oh, my cursor gone again. Right, straight line logic. So the straight line logic may look a bit confusing, but it's not. It states, if I can get a cursor back, that there we go. Straight lines. Oh, we get there. No, not that one. Straight lines are. I should have prepared this a little bit better. So we've got straight lines. We've got the logical statement there says, if A is parallel to B, then A is parallel to A and B is parallel to B. Oh, me cursor. I don't know what's going on with me PC. Why does it do that? Does anyone know why your cursor just keeps stopping? Maybe my batteries are going. Right, so here we've got proposition 30 within Euclid states straight lines which are parallel to the same straight line are parallel to each other. So it's a very simple statement, and when you hear it you think, whoa. But that's proposition 30 within Euclid. You've done a bit of work to get through it. These are the propositions. So first off, you make a statement. Straight lines which are parallel to the same straight line are parallel to each other. So let's just imagine 3 straight lines, and what we can say about them is they are parallel to another line. So the very fact that these straight lines are parallel to another line necessarily makes these straight lines parallel to each other. All the lines are parallel. Makes sense, right? You can't have one of those lines not being parallel, because then the statement straight lines which are parallel to the same straight line are parallel to each other. I mean, it necessarily implies that all of the lines are parallel to each other. That you can't really get around that fact. I mean, it's in Euclid. So you don't get away with having these things.
Is this the point where we apply the 1, 2, 3 principle? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Peter Clark says parallel to itself. Well, no. The straight lines which are parallel to the same straight line are parallel to each other.
Yeah, because you can't be parallel to yourself. That's just the R word. That doesn't make any logical sense.
Yeah. I think there was a bone of contention is because when we said we wrote the logic is A is parallel to B, then A is parallel to A and B is parallel to B. They are lines that are parallel. If A is parallel to B, then A is parallel to A. You're just making lines and you're saying that they're parallel to all of the other ones. But the basic principle stands. The actual one that we wrote was for a t-shirt. It's just a talking point. We literally made that logic up for the t-shirt. But the logic stands, not because if A is parallel to B, then A is parallel to A and B is parallel to B. Can be walked through as this statement, but the actual proposition within Euclid is straight lines which are parallel to the same straight line are parallel to each other. They're all parallel. If they're parallel to the same straight line, then all of the lines are parallel to each other. Very simple. Then from that we can then build from that and make another statement. I'm just trying to find it now. So the other statement that we can use, we can apply that. That's within geometry and Euclid, but we want to relate that to something that, like we said, we were dealing with in reality earlier. DP said, how many straight lines does it take to form a circle? Well, we formulate some logic. We have if all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon, horizontal being a straight line and the plane of the horizon being obviously a plane, which is all of the straight lines on that plane will exist within the plane. So if all of the horizontals are parallel to all of the straight line horizontals of the plane of the horizon, then again, by logical deduction, we can then say all horizontals are parallel to each other. I mean, they have to be, don't they? How could they not be? Through a simple logical statement. All of the horizontals either have to be, well, parallel to the plane of the horizon. So, but for that to not be true, we'd need to find some sort of a problem within it. So we've laid out the logic of the Euclid and the straight lines, and we've just represented straight lines as being horizontals, which they are. Like a horizontal is a straight line, right? So that deals with the first part of the statement of we got straight lines, right? So the straight lines, let's say the straight lines are horizontals. Well, that's that done. Straight line, horizontals are straight lines. So that's the first part done with. And then it says, which are parallel to the same straight line. Well, horizontals are parallel, mathematically described as being parallel to the plane of the horizon. Now, we have a definition of the plane. Where was that in the earlier definitions? A plane superficies is that in which any 2 points being taken, the straight line between them lies wholly in that superficie. So we take a straight line on the plane of the horizon, it would be a straight line that lies wholly in that plane. And if the horizontals, straight lines, then the straight lines that they would be parallel to would be within the plane of the horizon, and therefore all horizontals would be parallel to each other. I mean, how's that? And if horizontals are parallel to each other, then they don't intersect. And how many straight lines does it take in order to make a circle?
Wait, what? Wait, repeat that again. How many straight lines does it take to make a circle?
Yeah, that was the initial question.
How many points can be on a line?
Donegon? No, but is that a Donegon?
That's what the conception of a Donegon is, isn't it?
Right. But you'd have to have, like, wouldn't you have to have at least 360 straight lines? But that, yeah, see, even that doesn't even work.
Well,
because that wouldn't even be a circle.
But no, we've already sorted it. All the horizontals are parallel to each other, logically. If we're given the definition of a horizontal is being parallel to the plane of the horizon, and a horizontal is a straight line, then taking those things, then all horizontals are parallel to each other. That's it. You can't really get round it unless somebody wants to see. Batman's not convinced. He can't tell us why he's not convinced with it. He's just not convinced. It's not really my argument. It's well, I suppose like you could say it's an argument that was made up here on this server, but it relates to Euclidean geometry, logical statements, and I mean, how do you get around it? If all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon, well, are they? It's an if question. Are whole horizontals parallel to the plane of the horizon? Question.
Well, it begs the question, can you make a horizontal?
Well, yeah, is a horizontal a straight line? That's another question, right?
Yeah.
I'd say yeah. I say, are
Yeah.
horizontals parallel to the plane of the horizon? Well, yeah, that's like mathematically, that's how they're described. How they're defined, even. I mean, find us another one. Find us a definition of horizontal that doesn't relate to the horizon, because it does. They are mathematically described that way. I mean, if that's one of the premises that you have that doesn't make sense to you, Batman, go and have a look. Type in, do a search yourself. Horizontal mathematics definition. It will say. The question is whether horizontals or horizons, different locations, are parallel to each other, like he says. But necessarily, are horizontals parallel to the plane of the horizon? Wherever you are, doesn't matter. Batman. Everywhere. Because if they are parallel to the plane of the horizon everywhere, then how do you deny this logic? To say that they do intersect, because this logic states that they don't. Can't we just look at the shape of the earth? How do we do that, Batman? How do we look at the shape of the earth? Is that how you're going to get round this logic, Batman?
That's a great question, man.
Make some logic that says if all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon, which they are, then all horizontals are parallel to each other. Batman says, just look at the shape of the earth. I mean, it doesn't apply to any of the logic that we've just done or relate to any of the logic in any way, but it sounds like a bit of a diversion, really.
Sounds like an argument from ignorance.
Yeah, just like, don't look at that. Don't look at that argument. No. Go on here, look at this. Again, it's that simple, this logic, that there are very few premises that you could argue are false. And as we said earlier, in the logic is... Oh, I put it ages ago. A mathematical proof is an inferential argument for a mathematical statement showing that the stated assumptions logically guarantee the conclusion. Well, the stated assumptions. If all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon. Answer us that one, Batman. Are all horizontals parallel to the plane of the horizon? It's a pretty simple question. I've even heard all vertical lines are perpendicular to the plane of the horizon. Mathematically. There you go, Batman. Just because it's logical to you doesn't mean it's the truth. It's an argument presented, Batman. Is that your rebuttal?
Don't just throw your logic at me.
Yeah.
How dare you?
That's your logic. You've come on, you can do better than that, Batman. Let's hear the reason that you don't like the premise that if all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon. You just have to show me one horizontal that isn't, and then we'll be fine. It'd be dead easy. That's all you've got to do. Is just sort the premise out. If that's the problem that you've got the premise with, that horizontals, I say horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon. That's what makes them horizontal. But I'm guessing you're going to have a go at saying...
I mean, he could be afflicted with relativism. That's probably...
Well... relative logic or
to you but not to me, is that what he said?
I don't know.
How did he say? Oh, you read it. It sounded like it's I'm paraphrasing.
Just because it's logical to you doesn't mean it's the truth, says Batman.
How's that even a logical statement?
That's a true rebuttal, right?
That sounds like he's projecting relativism onto you.
Yeah, it's me that's just made up that logical statement.
Yeah.
The question is whether the plane of the horizon is at different angles to the plane of the horizon in a different location. Is it?
Can you read that again? Sorry.
This is Batman, right?
Yeah,
Batman says, the question is whether the plane of the horizon is at different angles to the plane of the horizon in a different location.
Plane of the horizon. Wow.
Well, I would suggest that no matter where you are, if you're going from one location to another location, you could have a horizontal and check at every point of the journey along the way to make sure that your horizontal is parallel to the plane of the horizon or not. And that should sort it out. At the moment where you find one of them is not parallel to the plane of the horizon.
That's why I asked earlier.
Yeah.
It begs the question, can you make a horizontal? And if you can make a horizontal, then you would need the horizontal to be parallel to the next one you make.
Well,
If it's not, then how would you ever do anything practically?
yeah, there's a couple of ways to sort this, isn't there? You can either say, if you had a model, you could say that the horizontals are not parallel to the plane of the horizon. That would be one. And then you would be saying that the initial statement is false. You could then say also that parallel lines or parallel planes or whatever actually intersect like Fight the Flat Earth does. Then you could say that the statement's false because parallel lines actually intersect. So that's what it means. Or you could try saying that a horizontal isn't a straight line. Which is, I think, is another one. But as ridiculous as it sounds, people have said that. But how are you proving whether the horizon at one point is parallel to another point? A point is parallel to a point. Or
He obviously didn't listen to the opening statements.
definition. The
You
horizon.
built the whole.
Yeah.
You built the whole definitions and gave the explanation of how you give a premise and a conclusion, and you went through the definitions, and now we get these questions.
The horizon, it's parallel to the plane of the horizon. Batman. Right? Not to the point of the horizon, because that's not a thing. Parallel to the plane of the horizon. I know it's very tricky for people to, because they've got a model, right? And that model contradicts straight lines, but they don't know what a curved line is to start off with. So the horizontal being a straight line and also being parallel to the plane of the horizon always would necessarily make it true. The conclusion is that horizontals are parallel to each other. Now, I've always said that anyway. It's the principles of geometry. That's of surveying geometry, practical geometry for elevation changes. All horizontals are parallel. I mean, it's pretty obvious. That's the reason the horizon doesn't rise to eye level, because parallel planes don't ever meet. It's not tricky at all. You seem to be struggling like mad, Batman. No, what you're the one that's having the problem, not us. It's really simple. Logically stated in a very simple statement, if all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon, it starts off with an if, Batman. So there's your out straight away. Just show us that horizontals aren't parallel to the plane of the horizon. Very simple. The actual logic is already set, as we showed you in Proposition 30 in Book 1. That's set. You can't get away from that. Straight lines which are parallel to the same straight line are parallel to each other. We know the definition of parallel means that they don't ever meet. Straight lines or planes. Straight lines or planes do not meet if they're parallel and the horizontals are all parallel. How do we know the horizon in London is parallel to the horizon at New York? Well, I'd say, are both of those horizontals that are near the horizon in London and the one that's near the horizon in New York, are they both parallel to the plane of the horizon in both of those locations? Because if they are, logically speaking, they are parallel to each other, yeah, logically.
This is the tricky bit for me, that no matter where I look, the parallels are horizontal to the plane. Like, it doesn't matter which, every single point that I look at, that's what's happening. But what's also interesting is that we view the world in almost like a 180, 360 if we turn all the way around, right? So we see in this circular, and I think people can kind of get that confused with what is actually happening, right? They'll almost like try and see this curve that isn't there.
It's optics, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can't get away from it. I mean, it's a straight line. It's being described as a straight line, yet, I mean, like the old adage was people used to say, "Well, I can turn round." It's like brilliant. Like I can turn round in 360 degrees as well. I can turn round and do a few spins. It doesn't make a straight line into a circle because of your imagination. I think this is one of the reasons that the flat earthers kicked off at us for saying things like this. But I mean, how do you get around the logic? I can't get around the logic, so therefore the horizon cannot be a circle. It's a straight line. All horizontals are described as being parallel to the plane of the horizon. So if the horizon has a plane, I don't know. It's not logical at all, but says Batman. I guess. How do we sort this out then, Batman? I mean, is that your just nuh-uh? That's your logic. That doesn't work. That's Batman's response. Brilliant, but I mean, I can't go against it. There you go. You've got Babs. Shines, even you know it's a circle. I don't think she said that, Babs, but you being the king of putting words in other people's mouths. I mean,
it's not what I said at all.
Yeah, I know. But Babs will just keep saying that you did say it because that's what Babs is like. Have you met Space Pope?
No.
He was the self-proclaimed messiah of flat Earth. If you want to see what Globe Earth / Flat Earth Society people are like, then Babs is your man. I think she said something like, Babs, a lot of people can't see through the idea that they think it's a circle and completely miss the fact that it's a straight line. It's described as a straight line, always. Especially if the horizontals. I mean, like, just find us a definition of horizontal in mathematics and we'll be fine. Because, I mean, that's what we go with, right? Mathematics gives us the proofs. We can't trust science, so-called, says a certain group of people. Perhaps Babs is one of them. I mean, how do you science a straight line? I'm not so sure you can. Definitely in the realms of geometry. Geometry is belonging to logic. You best deal with it geometrically or logically. Horizontals, mathematically.
You can see how this can be a problem for people to understand. Like, if it's a straight line in all directions, that means it's straight. Like, it means it's horizontal everywhere, all the time. There is no curvature. It's not curving. It's straight.
Yeah.
It's horizontal.
Well, horizontal, like, most people don't even think about it, right? The horizontals don't intersect with each other. You can't have them. I mean, it would normally be seen as a statement of fact, right? Horizontal is a straight line and horizontals are parallel to each other, as are verticals. But add a touch of a model in there, people go against that natural instinct. Verticals can't be parallel to each other, and because of that necessity, of that logic, neither can horizontals. But I mean, that doesn't make any sense just to say that. I mean, that would be really poor logic, wouldn't it, to come up against a logical statement that's based in mathematics. Batman, like, we can use auto levels, and auto levels have horizontals. It is a tool for establishing a horizontal plane of reference, and all horizontals are parallel to each other, even in surveying with an auto level. Simple. I know how surveying works. You can test if verticals are parallel or not. Just use an auto level. Like, genius. Spoken by somebody who doesn't understand what tools they're using. I don't want to go into it too much because we're going over the logical system here. And Batman seems to have gone to a tool that establishes a horizontal plane of reference in order to test whether verticals are parallel or not. I'm telling you, this logic with the horizontals and the horizon is something that sends the model afflicted into a bit of a frenzy. And you want to watch out, Shines, Babs or Chris Matt has a thing for women. He's not normally very nice with them. He might try and come across nice, but he does flip and ends up sending pretty ugly DMs and stuff, so be careful.
Thank you for the warning.
Yes, Babs, the horizon does go all around you, yes. Doesn't make it a circle. The horizontals can go all around you as well. You could hold a level right in front of your face as you're turning around. It doesn't make the level straight line into a circle. Because you could do that, couldn't you? Right? As you're going, you could hold a level right in front of your eyes and turn through 90 degrees, and it would still be parallel to the plane of the horizon, no matter where you turned in that circle. You could walk forward 100 foot and turn 90 degrees and keep doing that everywhere. You should get that. Some little glasses with little levels that come out over the edge of your glasses that you could just flip down. You could then just sort of orientate yourself, which you already have within your ears. There's little like canals, they call them. They aid you with balance to keep you stood and on the level. So yeah, you could do that anywhere you were, and it would always be parallel to the plane of the horizon. No problem, Babs, anytime. It looks like I've saved you there, Shines. He says he's not going to be DMing you. That's it. Keep it all out in the open, Babs, then everyone can see what you like. Don't try any backroom stuff. But I would go even further than that, right? You've got these inbuilt senses in your ears to know what horizontal is. You can look at things, right? You can walk into a room and notice if there's something off. Now this gets heightened from different types of people, being in the building trade and being a joiner or anything like that. You can tell if things aren't right. If somebody's not put a door frame in right, you can see it just doesn't look right. You notice these things. People walk into rooms, and if the picture's slightly off, you can see it. You know it, you have an inbuilt thing in your brain that tells you whether something is horizontal. Now, the understanding of that comes from the fluid. It comes from what you know water to do. The water establishes a level surface. You know that's level because your body's built with it. That is what establishes horizontal. The water surface. Can't get away from that. That's the reason that all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon, because that's the way the water sets up. It's horizontal. It's a horizontal plane. It's hardly surprising that all horizontals are parallel to it, because there's no curvature to it. If you don't have parallel lines intersecting, then there's no curvature. It's really hard to get around that. Does it make the Earth flat? No. There are elevation changes which are measured from measuring the difference between those horizontal planes vertically. That's how you get an elevation of the land. Very simple logic that people, they call me names for it. Everybody calls me names. But I cannot see how it could be any different. Very simple logic. The globe model agrees with me. Yeah, because the globe model has, verticals that are normal to the surface, which means they're all perpendicular to the surface. Yeah, I'll give you Shines. This has been going on for a bit. There is a book that they found and was translated in the 17th century. Supposedly they found a Euclid book and somebody translated it. There's no sign of this book anywhere before the 1700s, and it's called Euclid's Phenomena, and it was basically supposedly Euclid's attempt to describe the lights in the sky. So in him using that as a description, supposedly somewhere in there he wrote the horizon is a bounding circle or something like that.
Well, I mean, even what he wrote in here, the horizon is a circle, for if a sphere be cut by a plane, this section is a circle. It still sounds like, even if this was written, it's talking about how it's visually, like, observed kind of a thing, right? Like how we see in a circle, 180 degrees, we turn around, we see in 360.
Well, he also says, if a sphere be cut by a plane, which means actually cutting a sphere, well, that bit that's left is a two-dimensional surface called a circle, right? But in order for that to happen, you'd have to cut off some of the Earth, right? And that doesn't happen.
Because he's saying it's a circle, not a sphere.
Yeah, he says if exactly. A sphere is cut by a plane, well, where does that happen? Like, I don't cut any part of anything when I'm looking. It's already there. It can't be suggesting that it's already being cut and everywhere that you are, it has been cut into a two-dimensional circle, because that wouldn't have any curvature to it. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, thinking about it. Is that WS? Is that one of your socks? Blocking proves I'm right.
Yeah, he keeps talking about Euclid says something about the horizon.
Yeah,
is that in the
it's WS.
elements?
Euclid also, where did he write that? I bet he didn't write it in the elements, did he?
That's what I was asking. Was it in the elements?
Parallel circles. Dear. With that, it would have to be parallel planes with circles on them, and then that would be described as the definition I've just read in book 11. Unless you're talking about concentric circles, which he definitely wrote about, because, I mean, they're definitely really... He's saying we should read a book about the stars and the lights in the sky, rather than the actual geometry that we're talking about. Do you want to restate some new axioms or something for a different book? We think Euclid was a group of people. It must have been. Not one person can write something like this. It needs to be checked and verified and all of that. Not one person would do that. It was a group of people, and everything was refined down to the last word. And obviously people have rewrote it to add new words, and you couldn't even tell nowadays whether the original words of what were wrote are the original, because people have been messing about with it forever. But refining it, the original Euclid, perfect. It's not a book on geometry, you muppet. I think King's Dethroned. Yeah, read that. WS thinks Phenomena's a book on geometry. I bet he thinks it's spherical geometry as well, like non-Euclidean geometry. He's going to try and suggest that Euclid wrote non-Euclidean geometry. That would be fantastic and one hell of a claim if somebody were to try and make that. It's not geometry, dude. I'll put it in there just so everybody can see if you're not looking on the I don't know whether it's changed or what, but there you go. Euclid's Phenomena is a book on geometry, said by WS. Blocking proves I'm right. One of his many socks that he has to push this lie, really, that it's another geometry book. It's not really. I don't know, very dubious whether it's even a Euclid book. I'm not having it. Yeah, King's Dethroned is a very good book for if you want to try and understand the principles of trigonometry. He goes over the very basics of that very well and states that you should need proportional triangles, and also he has a very good passage about triangles only having 180 degrees in it. No mention of triangles with more than 180 degrees, strangely enough. Bring it. It's not geometry. The elements is geometry. And if Euclid wrote another geometry, I mean, why that? How could you even do that? Anyone? How could you write the elements and do all of that, make a massive book built from nothing to everything, right? It ends at you knowing say everything. You can't measure a curve. Euclid knew that. So you've got everything that can be known in geometry, what can be measured. You then go on to data to notice all of the bits of the things that you like. If you don't know something, what is the minimum requirements for you to be able to predict and know for absolute certainty that you can know the resultant part of it? That's what data does. So that's the extra studies beyond the original geometry that's already been set out. How could you then do that and then go, oh, I'll just write another book of geometry? Different one completely. Give us one of the definitions within his new geometry that isn't obviously Euclid, because he's already done that one. That sort of gives the definition of, let's say, a sphere. What's the definition of a sphere in this new geometry book? WS, please. Oh, right. Batman says this is entertainment. Nice. We've got it down as education. You think it's... You might be in the wrong place if you think this is entertainment. By saying what, Batman? Batman thinks he's educating us.
Yeah, that bit is funny. I haven't seen him write anything that was any type of education. It's
just there's another book. Euclid wrote another book. What was it? It's another book on geometry. Show us how it's geometry. It just is. Do you not believe me? You've not read it. How do you not know? This is terrible. Oh, there you go. The horizon is a circle. For if a sphere be cut by a plane... Well, yes, we know. If a sphere's cut by a plane, it be a circle. Now, WS, are you suggesting that a horizon is a sphere cut by a plane? Because that would be you at the bit that's cut by a plane in the middle of the circle. Not a sphere, a circle. Yeah, Brian Leakey, it is. Batman is FTFE. He's useless. He can't go to the non-Euclidean geometry, so that's why he goes to that. Teaming up with WS. WS is helping him out as much as he can. But you can tell they are those sort of people because they've got no logic. Just doesn't work. Oh, look at that. Well, wow. That's definitely WS. Can anyone see what he's writing there? So that... yeah, it's like... Who said what? Who said that? He just made it up. I'm sure you said that. I think whatever you think I said. So therefore, yeah. This is why he chooses sock accounts, WS. Mainly because I block him. Useless. But he uses sock accounts because nobody has to know this is WS. Because everybody knows that WS will not discuss this anywhere other than stating absolute shite. Just blatant lies. Like, it's a geometry book. What do you mean? He doesn't even know what geometry is.
And only from text, too. Never get in here and talk.
Yeah, no, he cannot talk, because it doesn't make any sense, anything that he ever says. But there's a few of them, right? On the Globe side, you've got, You've got Simon Dan. You've got Conspiracy Cats. You've got Ranty's joined that crew now. The ones that just say stuff, blatant lies, but can never actually back it up. They just say stuff. Come and discuss it. I mean, wow! Did you see that? Have you read what he's put? I'll have to get that because that's good. It's got to be WS. This. There's no other way. The horizon is a
logic
circle.
he's just saying logic, right? He's just putting logic before his bullshit.
Yeah.
And thinking it should make it make sense.
It's gonna work. If I say it's logic, then it is logic. Logic. Here we go. Double dot. There you go. The next statement comes from the WS logic statement. The horizon is a circle. Well, if a sphere be cut by a plane, then the section is a circle. That is geometry. Well, like we said, that statement, get rid of the horizon is a circle. You can just say, if a sphere be cut by a plane, the section is a circle. Well, yeah. That's definitely a true statement. Now, does that relate in any way to a horizon? Somebody cutting a sphere, right? Does that happen anywhere, wherever you are talking about WS? Because it sounds fucking ridiculous.
That would put us on a flat part of a ball.
It would put everybody in the middle of a flat circle that have already been cut. It's nearly as ridiculous as the spherical horizontal.
But why are you cutting the sphere if you're standing on top of it, right? Like, you're not looking through it. You're looking over it. You wouldn't cut it.
Yep.
Part of your vision would make contact with the sphere.
I don't think we're giving him enough credit. I think that's the 1, 2, 3 principle.
Oh, right. Yeah, I suppose so.
See, it's 1, 2, 3. Where we at? Where was it at? 1, the horizon is a circle. 2, cut by a plane. 3, it's a circle. Bam.
Here we go. This is definitely, absolutely, certainly WS. Because of the way he stays this, right? So, here we go. Bev, you agreed that the statement about a circle was correct. What statement about a circle? Like, what?
The plane cutting a circle, the plane cutting a sphere makes a circle.
Right, well,
yes.
Okay, so that is correct. It's geometry. It's in Phenomena. So the Phenomena is a book about geometry. Like that something mentions a circle, therefore that book is about geometry.
Can I jump in and just ask a question, Bev?
Yeah.
I just want to know this book he's talking about. It's a different book.
Yeah, Phenomena.
It's not Element.
Yeah, no.
Where can I get this book? I got to train. Fucking train. He's not beeping. Okay. No, I just want to know where can I get this Phenomenon book?
I don't know. What about Batman? Come on, where is it? Where do we get this from?
Well, I found a couple PDFs. I can send a PDF in the chat.
Okay. Can we get
can
like
you
a
send
date
it to me in
to it?
Discord, please, guys?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Yeah, he has. It's in there. In the live chat, Rob. Yeah, please don't make him say things too much.
you.
He's got a shite mic. Yeah, it'll just give you more chance to not understand what he says.
Hey, just 31 watching you, 38 watching Nathan. So,
Oh,
not bad.
no. I'm not. I wasn't actually talking to you, Fight. You can come round though. I mean, anytime you want to pop in. We do have the geometry thing to go over again. Remember?
Am I reading this? Sorry.
I was remembering the time when Septic wanted to have a debate about geometry and then chickened out. So, Batman, you can come in anytime.
Am I reading this right? The book was first printed in 1996.
Yeah, probably. There's stories about it being first translated in the 1700s or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's like, what do we need? Well, we need Euclid to say that the horizon's a circle. Let's make a book then. That's as far as I can tell. I can't find anything. It's not like the Elements, is it?
No, it just says it was first
history.
Just says it was first printed in 1996 in the preface.
Saw that, and so I was wondering, like, when it's first Oh, sorry. When I saw that in the preface, at 1996, and I'm trying to see if like when it was actually translated or like anything like that, and it doesn't say anything. It just says it was first printed in 1996. That kind of blew me away as well.
Well,
I found that really interesting.
Euclid's new stuff. It's pretty recent. What's up with that? I mean, this is WS that we're talking with. I mean, they're not known for honesty.
There's more technology now. We could probably logic better.
Yeah. We've got better numbers nowadays.
This is astronomy.
Yeah. Lights in the sky.
Cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, before people started watching TV and the smartphones and all the, like you go back, I think this is what they used to do. They would just sit around in a big circle and they would just talk about stuff, and just get smart and get educated and like critical think. That's I think that's how like schools used to be. And then it became like, the indoctrinations.
I think there's a problem with it in the fact that some people don't think they understand it, or maybe some people just don't get it, right? A logical mind needs to be able to be open, acceptable to any sort of answer, and not be swayed by stuff. But as you notice, there's a lot of people who are afflicted by a model. And I think that blocks the logical process. They
Yeah.
can't actually see the full logic of what's there right in front of them. They're blinded, blinkered
It's like-
by it.
Yeah, like their logic must first be filtered and like okayed by the model. You know what I mean? Like it's like before you say something, it's like, will this pass through the model? And if
Yeah.
it doesn't, they don't even have that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, the anything will go along with a natural thought process until somebody points out that it might affect the model and there's a conflict, and the cog dis then kicks in, and the model always wins. It has to. They even say things like it has to, because the cog dis says that for them.
That's Ranty's biggest problem, right? Like he accepted this ball and Witsit put it great to him, you know? It's like the genie, right? It comes not just with the great power of being able to explain everything, but you also come with that little confine of this is all you can talk about, right? And he was trying to question, okay, so the Earth's a ball. What are we spinning, floating in space? And like he didn't want to know part of it. It's like, yo, that's part of it, right? Like you can't just make the Earth a ball and then forget about all the rest.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I suppose if you put the limits to the shape, then there are more problems that come with it. But I mean, I personally don't go that far as to, like, I can only state what is and use the logic and the base to know what I can know. All of that other fancy stuff, I mean, I don't know.
Did Euclid have theodolites back in the BC?
They had.
I don't know. Quadrant.
He must have had a theodolite in 300, 400 BC.
I don't know. He didn't measure angles, did he? He only had a right angle. That's all they had.
I'm just kind of skimming through it. Theodolites have been around for a long time, man. I didn't know that.
Wow. It was wrote. He did write it in 1996.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well then, okay. That's okay then.
This is one of his later works, isn't it? Obviously.
I guess.
That's funny.
Yeah. Have you found... Oh, did he write about parallel circles in there as well? That'd be handy.
I think so.
Well, nice. Did he not call them concentric circles, or...
Wait a minute.
I'm pretty sure Euclid was paid NASA Shield's uncle.
Ranty. Ranty wrote it first. All right, don't go there.
Well, if you can make sense of this, this is awesome. So parallel circles, intersections with the celestial sphere of planes that are parallel in the ordinary sense and perpendicular to the axis of the celestial sphere. Wow. I was afraid I was going to get muted by Rakia reading that.
Parallel in the
celestial sphere of planes that are parallel in the ordinary sense and perpendicular to the axis of the celestial sphere.
Wow, the axis of the sphere. So
Yeah,
all of those circles are parallel. They're planes that are parallel. Parallel planes within the sphere, and they're all perpendicular to an axis, which would be presumably a diameter all the way straight through.
It just says celestial sphere, though. I thought that's just referring to looking up.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be imagine a dome, that one?
Yeah.
And then there's just a load of parallel circles get increasingly smaller and smaller. Wouldn't that be? That's what I'm imagining anyway. Seeing parallel circles on a dome, the celestial sphere. That's what he's talking about, right, Batman? I mean, you're the expert.
Yeah.
Was it Batman? No. It's WS, isn't it? WS that's talking about that.
Good old block.
Yeah. Does it say parallel in the normal sense or the ordinary?
Let me scroll back.
Parallel in the ordinary sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you have a cake and you have a 3-tier cake, you could say that all of the circles of the tiers that the cake sits on are parallel, right? In that sense, is that what do you reckon he's trying to get at in that thing?
Honestly, this is the first time I've even looked at this. It's all celestial sphere, though. It's not. It's just astronomy.
It's not geometry then. Do you not getting any?
I mean, just because something has geometric words in it doesn't mean it's about geometry. This is about astronomy. Horizon doesn't rotate. I mean, okay.
Yeah, what you've got there is Euclid's Elements of Geometry that was rewrote by Richard Fitzpatrick. 1883, 1885. So everybody had to go at rewriting Euclid because they were trying to push different narratives within it. It's a fascinating story when you get into it, Shines. The Euclid story. And once you really get into looking into the Euclid book and the logic, then the parallels within the biblical writings and the religious texts are even down to the rewritings of it to change it, to manipulate the thoughts of everybody that's trying to go into it. It is quite it's a work of art, but you can see why people would have to try to change it, to manipulate it.
But it also says the Earth
They
is
have
moving in here. Is this guy gonna back this?
Is what?
It says in respect to the unmoving Earth in one of the.
Unmoving. Uh-oh.
That's what it says. I don't mean, if he's one, I don't know.
That's
Wow.
a bit bad, isn't it?
I would think so.
He's going, it's okay with him, though. It says parallel circles. But like I say, if it says parallel circles, and from what I'm getting, he means like a cake tier thing. That those circles that each tier of the cake sits on is parallel to the other tiers. That's what I think he means by it.
Everything that's referenced in here, or everything that's in here, is referencing a celestial sphere. It's none of this is referencing to the model afflicted people, the way they think.
It's not a geometry, is it? It's not a separate geometry system.
Not at all. This
Yeah.
is all it's talking about is referencing a celestial sphere, which is when you looking up.
Yeah.
Wow, these guys are losing it. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're into astronomy, that's cool. I like taking pictures and looking up at the sky. It's cool.
Yeah. But I mean, for Euclid to do it, I mean, Euclid did optics as well, as in everybody did. Everybody had to go. Newton did optics. Euclid did optics. Did Newton have a go at doing geometry? No, I don't think so, because he used.
Well, he
Euclid.
used I was gonna say he used
Yeah.
Euclid in all of his stuff. Yeah.
And he used Euclid because it's perfect. Everything works. It's flawless. Nobody in, well, I don't know, they say 2,000 years or whatever, nobody faulted it. You couldn't fault it.
It says here the phenomena, the book itself begins with an introduction in brackets, possibly not written by Euclid. It even says it's set out in geometric style
Yeah.
about how arcs of the zodiac circle move across the sky. It's like, why are these?
They move across the sky. They move.
Yeah,
Right. Well, that's
what it says.
Can I jump in and say something again?
No, yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
So, since when do lights in the sky curve the water under our feet?
You're stretching it there, Rob.
Yeah. It has to. Is that be acceptable?
If you apply the 1, 2, 3
Model
principle,
dictates?
you can do
Yeah.
anything. How are your credentials?
It just has
Thank you,
to.
guys.
Otherwise,
you.
it
That's what I
can't.
thought.
Like all the logic and reasoning, all of that says it doesn't. So it just has to. Just has to. That's right, Batman. Have I got it right? We've not got any rebuttal to any of the logic that we state. That if all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon, then all horizontals are parallel to each other. That's it. Thank you. Logic. That destroys a model. But Cogdis is it's a bit tough, I guess.
It's funny when you look at stuff and kind of, it doesn't even take much of a cursory glance, then people don't talk about it much anymore.
So, what are the rebuttals to horizontals if all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon? As a starting one, because that's the only premise, really.
Batman says logic is irrelevant.
Yeah. Oh, it always is, isn't it? When it's the actual proof, right? That's where we get our proofs from, Batman. I think I've got I went through a thing earlier today.
Stop spouting logic at him. Come on now.
I just want to define my own words. I want to think my own, have my own way of looking at things.
You see, we've got here, like, this is an introduction into proof by deduction. So in mathematics, proving some statement is always a critical work, because any statement in mathematics has its significance. Here we are discussing one of the techniques to prove whether a statement is true or false. A mathematical deduction is a well-known method to prove any statement in mathematics. In this method, we take some logics to prove the statement true. In this technique of proof by deduction, we first consider the statement is true for all cases. Word deduction means to find out the conclusion by making some observations. Based on observation, we deduce the results. The whole procedure is done through by well-known mathematical principles. Logic. Proof. I mean, if it doesn't hold true, then we got any more proofs of mathematical reasoning? proofs in mathematics have to be wrote with words, it says here. I mean, this is proof. Would you not agree, Batman, that this is where we get our proofs from? Because you're saying it's irrelevant. Or are you not saying they're irrelevant now? You going back on what you said? The logic's irrelevant, but the measurements now are. Oh, here we go. Let's have a look at this. If you like logic, then this is WS. If you like logic, then if the Earth is a horizontal plane, oh, like it, what? As stated by Bev. Why do they always do that, right? He's formulating logic, and I'm gonna have to bring out the mind your P's and Q's. There you go. Boom. Emma's dad's out. So this opening statement, we'll take out the bit by Bev, right? If the Earth is a horizontal plane, then the angle to Polaris will change in a trigonometric function as you change latitude. If not, it's not a horizontal plane. Anybody want to have a go at that? I will get a copy of it so you can have a look at the... So,
I mean, you just state trigonometric function and you just sound smart, I guess. Okay.
Copy, and we'll post it in here. We've got right on top of Emma's dad looking down on it. Mind your P's and Q's. So, if you like logic, so this is his logic. He's doing an if-then statement. If the Earth is a horizontal plane, is it?
Well, the Earth, I think, is 3D, right?
Yeah. So that's a pretty bad P, isn't it?
We start with. We went over what a premise is.
Yeah.
We went over argument. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the premise is totally jacked right there. So whatever he says after that is just jibber jabber.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gone, isn't it? It's like, is there any need to continue? No.
Hello?
No.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
Oh, Buster.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Oh, there you go. I think that was Hot Mike. Right, so but I mean, do you want to take on the mind of a WS with the rest, right? So we're absolutely screwed with P. There's nothing there. And then from then on we go, the angle to Polaris will change in a trigonometric function. The angle will change in a trigonometric function as you change latitude. Anyone know what a trigonometric function he's talking about? As you change
Sorry
latitude.
about that.
No problem. I say
Yeah, that's what I was asking. He puts you just boldly state trigonometric function.
What is the angle to Polaris will change in a trigonometric function? I mean, it sounds brilliant, but just the angle will change. as you change latitude.
Well, it's just an angle, right?
Does it? As you move away from Polaris, that's what latitude is, right? Literally, your latitude is the angle to Polaris. So that's a pretty bad premise, isn't it? It's like, how do you do that? Well, because Polaris is that's how they worked out latitude. Surely he must know that. So the angle to Polaris does change. Does that mean that the Earth is a horizontal plane? Although it's not. It's a really bad, faulty premise. But the angle to Polaris does change as you move. You'll have to explain the trigonometric function bit. I mean, we do know what trigonometry is. WS. Yes. The latitude is the angle to Polaris. Yes. You can't deny that. Nobody can deny that. That's what your latitude is. The angle to Polaris. And Babs again. Anybody else all right with that? Anybody got any problems with the latitude being the angle to Polaris? Because Babs seems to think that the fact that the angle to Polaris changes at some numbers that he's given. I don't know. I've never actually measured that. Have you, Babs? Or are you just stating numbers that other people are going with? All right, Batman. Nice one, I like it. Just state a load of shite. Is that new to most people, or did you know that the imaginary lines they put on the floor called latitude lines, they call them the parallels, they're all supposedly the same because the angle to Polaris changes, and so that's what you do. You measure the point of Polaris and measure the angle from the horizontal, and that's how you get your latitude, supposedly. Now, I've never seen it anybody ever claim that Polaris is directly above their head, which is one of the premises that you'd have to take to believe that. But yeah, that's where they came up with the latitude, was just measuring an angle to a star, a light in the sky. They did it way before the model came around. Nice one. If we got WS having a go at anything yet, Babs? Want to say the angle to Polaris is your latitude, yeah. Did everybody know that?
Oh, I didn't.
Did you not?
No. I'll be honest. I didn't.
Yeah.
Never really looked into.
I did not know that, but it makes total sense, I guess.
I mean, yeah.
As you move away from it, right, it drops at 1 degree every 69 miles, they say. So what the ballers do is they then translate that to a drop of the water. You must have heard them talking about 1 degree every 69 miles.
Oh, yeah. I knew that, but I mean, all they're doing is putting the celestial sphere and what they use it for and translating it to under your feet instead of over your head.
Well, the way I look at it, right, take an auto level, right? You've got an auto level, and in those crosshairs, you've got stadia hairs. Right now, as something moves away, the amount of the measuring rod that fits into that, those stadia hairs, gets more and more, right? So if you imagine somebody stood up right in front of the lens, let's say it's a meter, right? They set, or let's say they set their camera on the tripod, or the auto level on the tripod at belt height, right? They must have a broken tripod or whatever. So you stood in front of it, like a foot away from it. Your crosshairs read in between those stadia hairs, I don't know, something about a meter or maybe 1.5 meters or whatever. But as you gradually move away from it, that reading more and more drops down. So there's a relationship. Like as the distance gets further away from the auto level, what you see drops into that image, right? At a set rate, a known set rate. Well, that's what they say happens with Polaris, right? You move away from it and it drops in the image, exactly like anything does as you move away from it in a known linear fashion, right? For every certain distance, then a certain drop occurs, more stuff fits into the stadia hair, you can then tell the distance or whatever, right? But it being a light in the sky, it's just the marker at the top, right? And it just gets further and further down as everything happens in reality, right? It doesn't make the surface you're on curved. It's just what happens. Well, that's what they did. They measured how far they were away from the star, but all of this takes the premise that you can go and stand underneath the Polaris at your zenith.
Yeah, blocking is saying Polaris has to be above the pole. What pole?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, if you anybody there, right? We need proof of that in order for this premise to occur, right? we need definite proof that somebody has been to the North Pole and has stood there and directly measured it above your head. Then you could go off in any direction and it would drop 1 degree every 69 miles, right? Now that would still not make the surface you were on curved. But it would apply to reality. Like, you can move away from things and things do drop as you move away from them.
You can't have A celestial sphere on a flat plane.
Can't have lights in the sky. Describe them as a circle.
They definitely need to rewind and go back and watch the
Yeah.
first little bit of logic.
There you go, Bev. Latitude lines are circles. Well, if you start off with the premise that you are starting off from a central point and then moving out a certain distance, like a radius distance, well, every distance from that center point would be a radius. I mean, genius. Like, that's how you describe a circle.
Is this how they get us drug into the argument with everybody else? I mean, are we getting drug into
Polaris. Sean Hawkins.
No, I mean, just a lot of people taking sextants to beaches and talking about sextants and astronomical things. It just seems odd.
Well, I think this is the real basic stuff. Like, if you guys didn't get that this 1 degree every 69 miles is Polaris, then that's good, because it is. You can't then change that into the water under your feet. That would be ridiculous to relate that curvature, well, it's not even a curvature, it's just an angle change, into a curvature of the land underneath you, or the curvature of the water, or curvature of levels.
Hey, hang on. Beth, thank you. Because isn't that what I've been saying for at least a year now?
What?
That looking at lights in the sky doesn't curve the water under your feet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, but you can imagine it. Don't take it away from them, Rob. I mean, what would they do if they couldn't imagine that that's what happens? They get awfully upset.
Looks like Mr. Matt wants to just work with spherical geometry.
Yeah, he doesn't have straight lines. I mean,
no.
His transformation from the flat Earth Messiah into, I don't know, some
globe Earth Messiah.
Well, I don't know. Could you really call him? I don't think so. There you go. He is a globe head, as Cleary states. Very true.
Yeah, I called him that earlier. Spherical geometry only works on a sphere. They really got to rewind the show and go back to the first principles.
Plot this to scale. Draw a horizontal line to scale on the whiteboard, says WS. Come in WS. Come in and tell us. Bring your things on and show us how you can't do what it is that you say you can't do.
Who created spherical geometry?
Einstein, I think. Or
They'll probably tell you it was Euclid that wrote the spherical geometry book.
That's what they're trying to do. He's already trying to say that. That's what the phenomena play is. They try and say Euclid wrote non-Euclid.
Maybe that's Sean Hawkins. I don't know.
Just plot the Polaris angles to scale. Like what? An angle to scale.
Even if you were able to do that, you still have to have a starting point. You have to be 90 degrees under.
Just have to have angles. I mean,
Yeah.
Who's measured them? Has somebody got some measured angles for us to go at? WS, come on, give us some numbers that you've measured, and then we'll have a go. In fact, you bring us your graph that you've plotted all of the measurements that you've made to the lights in the sky, and we'll have a look at it. We'll have a quick gander. We're not talking about lights in the sky. We never do. That was just to prove the point that latitude lines come from a measurement of an angle to Polaris.
Measured angles to a light in the sky.
Yep.
Nice.
That's it. Yeah, that's why they're latitude lines. With they're measured like an angle, aren't they? They call them the parallels. It's handy, isn't it, having parallels? Circles. Is it not to be confused with a normal parallel? You could call it a circle parallel. Come in, WS, and show us. See if you can. I bet you can't. We don't we don't do lights in the sky plotting, because guess what? Nobody's measured any of these angles. We don't talk about it because it's not relevant. Looking at lights in the sky does nothing for establishing a horizontal baseline.
What do you mean by nothing?
I mean, you can't look at lights in the sky and judge anything that what's underneath your feet. You'd normally end up tripping over if you keep looking up at the lights in the sky.
So you mean like zero chance?
I can't work out how you could look up to do something. I mean, you might have a mirror. You could walk around with a big mirror above your head, but I don't think you'd be able to do much leveling to work out the horizontal. You'd be looking at the wrong angle altogether, wouldn't you? I can't tell.
It seems like you would, and you definitely couldn't measure it.
I mean, again, it's got us around to the looking at the lights in the sky, which is just about as far away from the logic as what we started with, right? We started off with a very simple logical statement, which none of them have bothered with yet. They just go, but if all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon, which I state it is the mathematical definition of horizontal, is being parallel to the plane of the horizon, then all horizontals are parallel with each other. That's a lot more relevant to the horizontal plane that we're using. But WS seems to think that you should be looking at lights in the sky still. To prove nothing. But that's the level of argument that we've got nowadays. Have we got in? Nobody? We've got everybody. Should we, I'll put the, I'll just, argument that we've got nowadays. There you go. Oh. What was that? There you go. That's the Discord. If anybody wants to come in, give us a hand. Or maybe you want to put an argument across that anything to do with the basic logic that we're dealing with, the horizontal logic. Polaris angle geometry. Wow. Would that be an angle? We can't do fuck all with an angle, unfortunately.
And would that angle be straight lines?
2 straight lines, yeah.
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 Mm.
On a straight
Got a
line,
couple
that's what
problems.
he said. He said put it on a horizontal line, and because that would be the base of your angle to start off with.
Mm.
Look at how bad this is. You say we avoid the geometry, whereas we're talking about the horizontal. Do you think
That's just so they can avoid coming in here and talking to us about the geometry as they project
Well, I'm
their...
just asking whether the
Yeah.
the angle that he's measuring has straight lines to it. And do you think, are you saying, WS, that you think measuring angles to Polaris can help you that horizontals intersect with each other? Because that would be a pretty bold claim.
He's even misstating how you said it. You already agreed Polaris angle matches latitude. That is not... They used...
So plot all 90 angles. Wow.
They think we don't understand their tactics.
WS, I've challenged you to come in here for years. And guess what? You don't. You just sit in a text chat challenging me, asking me questions, talking shite. Come in here and we'll have a talk about it. Come in here. Done. Very simple. We're talking about logic and the horizontal logic. So if you would like to come and talk about the horizontal logic and how that applies to you measuring angles, then come on in. Please do. Come on in. If you've got any proof about the 90-degree Polaris above your head at a position that you call 0, or do you call it 90 degrees latitude? I'm not too sure. Which one is it? Yeah. WS is one of the longest old trolls. He's never talked about anything, stated a lot of shite about things that I've said. That's a load of bump,
Yep.
obviously.
Can I say one thing, Bev?
Go on.
So what I think is like 90 degrees to Polaris. That's technically their North Pole, right? Well, any map I've seen lately, the North Pole is in the middle of an ocean.
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to get 90 degrees to that? I don't think they can.
I've never seen
Unless they have
anything.
their own ship. And go into pretty much sub-freezing temperatures.
Yeah. Well,
and then travel 69 miles and say that it's 89 degrees. Good luck with that, idiot.
Well, WS says that the latitude lines are circles and Polaris is in the center. Well, that's a big claim. I've never seen it, like I say. And he just says the geometry proves it. Well, come in and show us the proof through geometry that proves it. Very simple task. Your claim that you've just put, I'll put it here, I'll get it so everyone can see that WS is the one that has made the claim that the geometry proves. I'd like to see that proof. There you go, I'm going to put it in the chat. Boom, what do you reckon? The geometry proves it. WS, come on. Come on in. Bring your proof that proves geometrically that Polaris is in the center. Is that just where you put your compass point when you're drawing a circle? Because I think that would be... that's how you draw it, right? Put your compass in the centre and say that's Polaris. Then I'm going to draw a circle. Oh, I don't want to be... I want to be taking too much up at the time of talking about Polaris. Yeah, that's definitely WS. Stating that things that I said that I didn't actually say. Come in, WS. Again, last time, I'm going to offer you to come in here and state your claim and give us the proofs that you are claiming. Do not ask me to do it for you. If you can't do it, I'll just say that's fine. You're just saying stuff that you can't prove. I mean, we know that anyway. That's why I've blocked you. So if you either come in here or you stop it, because I mean this is getting a bit silly now. Stating claims of things that you can't prove and then asking other people to do things for you when you've the one that's claimed it. Is everybody all right with the horizontal logic? And will you be using it? Will you try and process it for yourself and ask somebody else if they can do anything with it? Because I would suggest just try using it. You're gonna go... WS, like one more time, please do not state something that I did. You can just come in here and state your case. I don't really do anything about Polaris. It's a light in the sky and measuring angles to lights in the sky is something that I don't do. So I won't be doing any of that measuring angles. Just the same as I don't go up mountains with auto levels. And I do not cite water levels. 3 things that are ridiculous for me to do. There's no point in me doing it. So I will not be told by trolls what I should do in text chats. Come in here, prove something for yourself and for us. Show us what knowledge you can bring us, please. Don't say anything about me, please. So anybody happy with the horizontal logic? Because all there would have to be, because one of the problems is some people think horizontal is a bent line, a circle. So we have to find a way to prove that horizontal is a straight line. Then if horizontal is a straight line, then perpendiculars to that horizontal will be vertical, because that's what verticals are. And also all perpendiculars to a horizontal plane will be parallel. So by proving that the horizontal is a straight line or a plane, we can then prove that all of the perpendiculars to that plane will be parallel. So start off with the baseline. Prove horizontals are a straight line, first off. After that, we will then prove that it is a plane, a horizontal plane, using actual geometric proofs in a practical method, using practical tools, realistic tools. And a logical statement and a logical method that works without looking at lights in the sky, without any fancy tools, just basic reality. So what do you reckon? Is it too much for everybody? Does everybody go to sleep?
No, I'm actually really thoroughly enjoying this, and I want to get out in nature. You know what I mean? Like, I just really want to go to the beach right now. So luckily I live close to one, and I think we're going to be heading out there this weekend.
Well, you know the principles of level and horizontal, like being vertical and horizontal being perpendicular to each other, right, in straight lines, and that's geometry. Well, you know how what they contention they have. I'm talking to people like WS and all of those. That there is well, they say there's a curvature to level, whereas I say level is horizontal. So the only contention there is really at a base level is level a straight line or a curved line? So you get that, right? As a
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely straight.
Yeah.
It's not curving at all.
Okay.
Period.
So, well, that's level or horizontal. See? Horizontal definitely doesn't curve. The contention is that level does curve. So a certain group of afflicted people say. So how do you tell if it is a straight line or a curved line? To be like mathematical proof, I'm talking here now, not just sort of you know, what seems right in the true geometric sense. The question would be, how could you prove that it is either a straight line or a curved line? Well, the fact that you cannot measure a curve hasn't seemed to come into people's minds at all. they've completely forgot. There's a group of people, the ones that have the curved level, they seem to have completely missed the fact that you cannot measure a curve.
Well, this reminds me of like the whole paper towel rule thing. Paper towel rule Earth, right? So yeah, there's curve going this way, but none going this way. And then other people will be like, oh, but there's like a tiny little pixel, and we can say what the camera's not actually doing and picking up, and then we do another algorithm with it, and then we can show that there's pixels missing. I mean, it's ridiculous how they try and come up with there is a curve, but there isn't any.
Well,
There's
like
no
again,
curve.
how would you measure that curve? Because all you've got is a measuring device, let's say an optical measuring device or whatever.
Okay, but hang on a sec, Ben. Don't they? Oh, can I ask a question? So how do they measure 8 inches per mile squared?
It's triangles. It's Pythagorean formula. It's just triangles. They've got a model, and then they use Pythagorean formula to predict what would happen on when they relate a Pythagorean triangle to a curvature of a circle. But all you're measuring is a slope, right? If you work it out, 8 inches per mile squared is 8 inches every mile. Well, that's you measure 1 mile, you run, and your rise is 8 inches, or your drop is 8 inches. That's rise over run. That makes a slope. There's no curvature there. Literally, it's a triangle with 2 straight sides, and the sloped bit, the hypotenuse, is the bit that you're imagining you should be calling level. That you can't measure a curve. You can't. You can't even define a curve. Can you? And that's the truth. There's a load of people that are imagining they can do things that it is impossible to do. Yet, they've got a model. And the model states something, and they've got to just go with it. Must be tough. Must be tough. That's why there's no surveyors around. Globe surveyors, sorry. Literally, no globe surveyors. At all. Because for you to be a globe surveyor, you would have to be able to measure curvature. That's impossible. But we're just people on the internet, on Discord.
If we can't measure a curve, we can calculate it, right?
That's bad, Rob. Proper shite, Mike. Anybody hear what he said then? Or is that just me?
Also, I heard was calculate.
Okay. So.
No. Nope.
Oh my gosh.
No. No, Rob.
Not
Definitely not. Not me.
So we calculate a curve, can't we? How's that?
Whoa.
That's better.
You can calculate a curve. I don't know. I don't even think you can calculate a curve, can you? What would the calculation of a curve look like? Like how would you define a curve first? I mean, that's the first thing you have to say. how would I define a curve? And then
Would you compare?
Go on.
Was that rhetorical?
No, I mean, like, seriously, I mean,
I guess I would just kind of thinking through it. I would try to compare it to a straight line and see if it's straight too, or if it's curvy.
if it deviates from a straight line and from one point, I mean, it could still be a slope, couldn't it? Because you're only measuring at another point. I mean, you could plot 100 points, but then to join each point up to the next one, the shortest distance from 2 points is a straight line.
But if I had something that I thought was curvy, I would put it up to something that wasn't, that I knew was a straight line.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Just kind of thinking out loud here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we really think that we've been through this quite a few times with quite a few people. There's only one way of doing it. Come on. I just need to nip to the toilet, so off you go.
I was just gonna make a dumb comment. I was just gonna say, if you find something that you think is curvy, you may want to marry it. But I'm just being a smartass.
Oh, it's all been quiet, has it? Didn't even give me a chance to nip to the toilet.
I didn't have that much to say. It wasn't that important, and then my dog started barking right after that too. So.
Right,
I was just making a smartass remark.
On the measuring a curve or defining.
Yeah,
a curve.
well, he said if he said something about having something curvy, and I said if you find something curvy, maybe you should marry it. That's all I wanted to say. I was just being a smartass. You know me.
Yes, I mean, this is one of the questions that we've been doing for quite a long time. How would you define a curve? I mean, forget about measuring it, because it's pretty obvious that you've only got point-to-point measurement, and that's straight line. You can't put a point on something and do a straight line measurement or whatever and then say that's a curve.
Don't you have to measure it from within?
Well, if in Euclid you postulate 3 to describe a circle, you need a center point and a distance from that center. Then you can describe, as in draw. to
Right.
describe it, right?
But the radius and the circumference comes from the inside, so wouldn't you measure from actual measurements of it? Wouldn't you do it from the inside, from the center out to the edge?
Well, that's a radius, isn't it? That's a straight line.
Yeah.
So in order to
Circumference is just a ratio.
in order to describe a circle, you need a radius and a position of that center. Then you need camera gods. You've got your camera on, gods. Do you mean to? I can't. Do I? Yeah, you go.
I was working on it. I just couldn't get it to come up to go off.
Yeah. Yeah. If you've just got a straight line, and that is what you're going to use to describe a curve, then, I mean, how well are you actually describing it? I say, I don't think you can do anything with it myself. I don't think you can describe it. I don't think you can define it. You definitely can't measure it. So that leaves them with a big problem. Because if you wanted to measure a deviance from anything, you would need a straight line as your base to start off with. I don't know. I see a lot of people that are calling a lot of other people stupid and saying a lot of people don't understand geometry. But then the fundamentals of it, and you struggle to understand how to define or describe the curve that people are looking for. I don't have a curve. It's not there. I don't have a problem with it. You know, I don't have to describe it because I can well describe the straight line, the horizontal, perpendiculars. I know how to measure it. I know how to do all of that. I know how to plot all of the different points and measure them. I don't know how to define a curve or measure it. That's why I think Blue went for the slope that he's not going to talk about anymore. I find it sad that there's a lot of people that say things but then can't come and prove anything. You got to take a fair bit of shit from people. Guess it's not exciting enough, right? Well, I think we should cut it short. Anybody else got any points that they want to put in? Any statements? Anybody anything on logic? I'll try and draw it all up for the test, and we will get to the proof of how to check for a straight line, because there's definitely a proof for a straight line within geometry, and if we work on the proof for a straight line and contrast that with the proof for, well, the non-even definition of a curve, I think it should be telling, but I don't know. Right, I think I'll end that.
I just wanted to say the dictionary says a curve has no straight parts, so a curve is just not a straight line, apparently.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem, isn't it? Like you can't really define something by saying it's not that. I mean that's one of the worst definitions ever.
Yeah, there's almost as many different definitions as when you start looking at them. There's a lot of different ways they try to say it.
Yeah. Right,
Didn't mean to stop you from cutting it off.
Yeah, I'll shut it off.